The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, and the smell of bacon sizzling on the stove should have been a sign of a typical Christmas morning. The Christmas tree lights twinkled softly in the corner, their glow reflecting off the meticulously wrapped gifts underneath. The house was decorated in its usual festive fashion, with stockings hung by the fireplace, a wreath on the front door, and Christmas carols faintly playing in the background. It was the holiday season, and everything was supposed to be perfect. I had spent the last few months planning the perfect Christmas for my daughter Emma and her husband Noah. They had been through a lot lately, Emma especially, after her recent divorce. I knew this trip to Aspen would be just what they needed. A fresh start, a little bit of luxury, and a chance to come together as a family. So, I did what I always did. I took care of everything. The cost? $15,000 in amount. That wasn't small by any means, but for me, it was worth it to see the smiles on their faces. I booked the flights, secured the rooms, arranged for ski lessons, spa appointments, gourmet meals. I even made sure that everything was set for them to enjoy a full week of relaxation, without a care in the world. I had planned every detail down to the last minute, from special restaurant reservations to personalized activities. I wanted this holiday to be one they would remember forever. But this Christmas morning, as I walked through the house, there was no laughter, no excited chatter, no sounds of wrapping paper being torn open. There was only silence. I called out, "Emma? Noah? You up yet?" No answer. I walked into the living room, expecting to see them sitting around the tree, but it was empty. My heart sank. I walked toward the kitchen, where the smell of bacon was still hanging in the air, but the space was also empty. There was no sign of life. Confused, I checked the hallway, calling their names louder. "Emma? Noah? Where are you guys?" The house was eerily quiet, and my stomach began to churn. I was starting to feel something wasn't right. The excitement I had been hoping for had evaporated. I checked their bedroom doors, and both were wide open, the beds unmade, and hastily thrown together. I glanced into the bathroom, but there were no signs of them being there either. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and dialed Emma's number. The call went straight to voicemail. A pang of panic hit my chest, but I ignored it and tried Noah's number. Same result, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. My hands were shaking as I looked around, feeling more and more like I had been abandoned. The house was empty. No one was here. The silence was deafening. I walked back into the kitchen, still hoping to hear the sound of Emma's voice, maybe a joke from Noah, something to reassure me that this was all just a misunderstanding. But there was nothing. Only the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the flickering of the Christmas tree lights. And then, I saw it. A folded piece of paper sitting on the kitchen table, right where my coffee mug always sat. My name was written on the front in Emma's neat handwriting. My stomach flipped as I walked over to it, almost instinctively. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine as I unfolded it. "Dad, we decided to go to Aspen without you. Noah and I need some time to ourselves, just the two of us. We thought you'd understand. Please don't worry about the money, you can afford it. Thanks for everything. We'll be back in a few days. Love, Emma." The paper slipped from my fingers as I stood there, frozen. My heart pounded in my chest. I could barely comprehend the words on the page. I had spent months planning for this Christmas, spending every last dime to ensure my family had everything they wanted, and they had left me, abandoned me on Christmas morning. For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Betrayal, hurt, confusion, anger. It all flooded my mind, but there was one overwhelming emotion that rose above the rest. Disbelief. How could they do this to me? How could they plan a trip, take my money, and not even have the decency to tell me beforehand? I had worked so hard to make this holiday special. I thought we were a family, that we would share this moment together. But this was a cruel, calculated decision to leave me behind. I sank into the kitchen chair, staring at the empty room around me. The Christmas tree lights flickered, and I looked at the presents I had bought for them, presents that were now meaningless. I had spent weeks picking out the perfect gifts, imagining how happy they would be when they opened them. And now, the thought of them opening those gifts made my stomach turn. I stood up and walked through the house, calling out for them one more time. "Emma? Noah? This isn't funny. Where are you?" But the house was still silent. I picked up my phone again, my hands shaking as I dialed Emma's number once more. I left a message. "Emma, it's Dad. I found your note. I don't understand what's going on. Please call me back. Please." Then, I called Noah's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times, before it went to voicemail again. And then I called the others, my son-in-law's parents, his sister, but no one answered. The house felt colder now, emptier, as if the very walls had turned against me. I walked into their bedroom, looked at the empty space where their suitcases had been. My eyes caught sight of the Mercedes car keys on the kitchen counter. They had left, but not in my car. They had taken an Uber. It wasn't just that they had left me behind. They had made a point of it. I couldn't take it anymore. The betrayal was too much. This wasn't just a family vacation. This was the culmination of years of me giving, of me being there for them only to be cast aside when they no longer needed me. I had been the fool, the one who thought they cared, the one who believed in the illusion of family. But now, I saw the truth for what it was. I grabbed my phone and called the resort. It was time to take action. It was time for them to understand the consequences of their actions. The silence in the house that morning felt like a void, an emptiness that echoed through every room. I stood there, frozen in place, staring at the note in my hand. My mind was spinning with thoughts, a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and a sinking sense of betrayal. I had given everything I could to make this holiday special, to show my love for my daughter Emma and her family, and now they had taken it all for granted. They had walked out the door without a second thought, leaving me behind like an afterthought. I walked through the house, the familiar rooms now feeling foreign. The smell of coffee that had once brought comfort now made my stomach turn. I passed the living room, where the tree stood beautifully decorated, full of presents but empty of life. The stockings, once so carefully hung, now seemed hollow. I felt my chest tighten as I approached the fireplace, where I had imagined us all gathered, sipping hot cocoa and laughing, making memories. But instead, I was left with an empty house and a deep sense of betrayal. I sank into the armchair in the living room, staring at the gifts I had carefully chosen for each of them. I had thought that this Christmas, this vacation, would be the turning point, the moment when we came together as a family again. But now, it felt like a joke, a cruel joke that had been played on me. I had been the one to give, to plan, to make sure everything was perfect, and in return, they had taken my generosity and walked away. No explanation, no apology, just a cold, calculated decision to leave me behind. I picked up my phone again, hoping that one of them would call, that maybe this was some kind of misunderstanding. But when I looked at the screen, there were no new messages, no missed calls, nothing. The silence in the house felt even louder now, as if the walls were closing in on me. I didn't know how long I sat there, staring at the phone, willing it to ring, for someone to reach out, to tell me this was all just some terrible mistake. But no one did. The minutes turned to hours, and still, I heard nothing. I knew what I had to do, but I couldn't bring myself to take the first step. I felt like I was frozen in time, unable to move forward. But as I sat there, something inside me shifted. The anger that had been bubbling up slowly started to take over. I was no longer just a victim. I had been victimized, yes, but I wasn't going to sit here and let this happen to me again. They thought they could take advantage of me. They thought I was just a source of money, a walking ATM. But I was more than that. I had to show them that their actions had consequences. I got up from the chair, my feet moving with a sense of purpose. I walked into my office, the one place where I had always felt in control. My desk, cluttered with papers and documents, seemed like the perfect place to start. I opened the drawer where I kept all the vacation documents, the confirmation numbers, the resort information, the payment receipts. I had all of it right here, and I knew what I had to do. I sat down at my desk and picked up the phone, dialing the resort number with steady fingers. I had planned this trip for months, meticulously arranging every detail, and now it was time to take it all back. If they didn't want to be part of this family, if they didn't want to appreciate what I had given them, then I would make sure they felt the consequences. "Good morning, Little Nell Resort. How can I help you today?" The receptionist's voice was pleasant and professional, but I could already hear the sense of urgency in my voice. "Hello," I said, my tone firm. "This is Larry Hughes. I need to make some changes to the reservation under my name. I'm canceling everything." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Hughes. Can you please confirm the reservation details?" I gave her the confirmation number, my hands shaking slightly as I spoke. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me as I made the decision. They had left me, and now I was going to take back what was rightfully mine. No more playing the fool. "I need to cancel all the activities," I said. "The spa appointments, the ski lessons, the private chef service for New Year's Eve. All of it." The receptionist hesitated again. Sir, those are premium bookings. There will be cancellation fees. I don't care about the fees, I interrupted. Cancel everything. I don't want them to get anything they didn't earn. I'll take care of the charges. She clicked her keyboard, and I heard her typing as I continued. Cancel the wine tasting tour, the private shopping appointment, the ski lessons, and the New Year's Eve dinner. They can figure it out themselves now. I felt a strange satisfaction as each item was removed from the list. The vacation I had paid for, the dream I had built for them, was now slipping away. They didn't deserve it. They had taken my money, my time, my love, and they had left me alone. Sir, is there anything else you would like to change? The receptionist asked. I paused for a moment and then replied, Yes. I need to remove my credit card from all their bookings. I don't want them to be able to charge anything more to my account. Certainly, Mr. Hughes. Is there anything else? No, I said, my voice steady. That will be all. I hung up the phone, feeling a strange sense of finality wash over me. I had made my decision. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. It was time to take back what was mine. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls, emails, and legal paperwork. I contacted my lawyer, Michael, to begin the process of ensuring that everything was legally binding. I had to make sure they understood that their actions had consequences, financial, legal, and emotional. I wasn't going to be their fallback anymore. I wasn't going to be the one they could always count on, only to be discarded when it suited them. If they wanted to play games, they were going to have to deal with the fallout, and I would make sure they did. The following days were a blur of action and emotion. Each task I took on felt like a small step towards reclaiming my sense of self, towards regaining control over my life and the decisions that had been taken out of my hands for far too long. I went through the motions of canceling credit cards, calling in legal favors, and reviewing financial documents, but all of it felt mechanical, as if I were operating on autopilot. I wasn't just removing their access to my money, I was removing their access to my life. The house, once full of the chatter and chaos of my daughter and her family, was now eerily quiet. Every room felt bigger, emptier, and more foreign to me. The Christmas tree in the corner of the living room remained decorated, but it no longer had any warmth. The decorations, once symbols of joy and family unity, felt like a mockery now. The presents I had so carefully selected and wrapped sat under the tree, forgotten. The stockings I had hung with pride remained unfilled, a reminder of the empty promise of family togetherness. It was the first time in years that I felt completely alone, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. Part of me felt vindicated. They had tried to take advantage of me, and now they were learning the hard way that I wasn't someone they could manipulate without consequences. But another part of me, some deeper, quieter part, still ached. I had loved them so much, had given everything I had to them, and yet here I was, forced to act as if they were nothing more than strangers. The phone rang again, interrupting my thoughts. It was Michael, my lawyer, calling to check in and make sure everything was on track. Larry. Michael's voice came through the receiver, calm and measured. I've made sure all the legal documentation is in order. You've got everything lined up for the apartment loan recall, the credit card cancellations, and the car loans. It's all ready to go. But I need to ask you something. What is it? I asked, my voice tight. Are you sure about this? I know the betrayal stings, but are you prepared for what comes next? Because once you go forward with these actions, there's no going back. I sighed, the weight of the decision settling deeper in my chest. It had already been difficult to take the first step, but now that I had, there was no turning back. There was no more compromising, no more pretending. They had made their choice. They had excluded me from the family they claimed to love, and now I had to take a stand. I wasn't doing this out of anger anymore. This was about boundaries. This was about self-respect. I'm sure, Michael, I replied. I've thought this through. I'm doing what needs to be done. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Michael had known me for years, had seen the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. He knew how much I had sacrificed for my family, how much I had invested in their happiness. He had never seen me like this before. I just want to make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, he said softly. Sometimes, the people we love, our families, can blind us to what's really happening. But if you're ready to walk this path, then we'll proceed. I'm ready, I said, the words feeling like they were being pulled from some deep well inside me. I've already made my decision. The following week felt like a slow burn. I filed the necessary paperwork to initiate the loan recall and cancellation of credit card authorizations. I made phone calls, spoke to bank representatives, and ensured that every piece of the puzzle was falling into place. My family had believed they could take advantage of me, But I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. They had crossed the line, and now they would face the consequences. During that time, I continued to get messages from Emma, but I refused to respond. The desperation in her voice, the pleading, only made me feel more resolved. She had thought she could take from me without any repercussions, but now she was learning that actions had consequences. There was no room for negotiation. They had made their choice, and now they would face the fallout. The calls from my daughter continued for days, but I ignored everyone. The hurt in her voice was evident, but it no longer swayed me. I had to protect myself, and I couldn't let her manipulation pull me back into the cycle of enabling their selfishness. One afternoon, as I was sitting in my office reviewing the final documents before sending them off to the legal team, I received a message from Sarah. She hadn't been involved in the holiday betrayal, but I knew she was struggling with the tension between her family and me. I had always been the one to keep things together, to hold the family unit intact, but now everything was falling apart. Dad, I know things are bad right now, but please, let's talk. This isn't the way we should be handling this. I'm not like them. Please don't shut me out too. I stared at the message for what felt like hours. My heart wavered for a moment, torn between my love for Sarah and the cold, hard reality that had driven me to this point. But I had to stay strong. If I didn't, I would be teaching them that betrayal had no consequences. I didn't respond to Sarah's message immediately. I couldn't, but I would, in time. I knew that when I was ready, I'd have to have the conversation, but not now, not until everything was in motion. The following days passed in a blur of legal paperwork, phone calls, and emails. I had set the wheels in motion, but a sense of unease still lingered in the pit of my stomach. It was hard to deny the ache in my heart, despite all the rationalizations in my head. I had done what needed to be done, but the human side of me, the father, the man who had given everything for his family, still felt betrayed. There were moments when I questioned whether this had been the right move, but every time that doubt crept in, I thought back to that morning. I thought back to their coldness, their disregard for the sacrifices I had made, and the realization settled in again. I had no other choice. I spent most of my time at my office, going through the motions of my work. But even though I was surrounded by files and numbers, my mind wasn't fully focused. I had already contacted my lawyer, Michael, and set the process in motion. The legal documents were in place, the recall notices sent, and the credit card cancellations finalized. Now, I just had to wait. The hardest part was knowing that my family would fight back. They would try to manipulate me into backing down, and I knew that in their minds they still believed they could win. It was a cold afternoon when the first sign of their retaliation came. My phone buzzed, and the screen lit up with a call from Emma. She had been relentless, calling multiple times each day, leaving voicemails, sending messages. But this time, I answered. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was done with the silence. It was time to face them. Hello, Dad? Emma's voice sounded weak, like she had been crying. Please, we need to talk. I let out a deep sigh, trying to suppress the anger that threatened to bubble over. I'm listening, I said, my voice colder than I intended. Dad, please, she continued, her voice trembling. We never meant for things to get this far. We were wrong. I was wrong. But you have to understand, we didn't know how to handle everything. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on the phone. What's there to understand, Emma? You and Noah planned this all along. You took my money, you planned a vacation behind my back, and you left me alone on Christmas. Do you really think you can justify that? She was silent for a moment, and I could hear the distress in her breath. I didn't think you'd react like this. I thought it would be okay, that you'd understand why we needed this time. We didn't want to hurt you. We just needed a break. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A break? I repeated, my voice rising. You needed a break? You thought leaving me out of everything would make things better? You left me, Emma. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Her voice cracked. Dad, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Please, just let me explain. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I felt a coldness in my chest as I listened to her words. This wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about her wanting space or needing a break. It was about betrayal, about a family that had abandoned me, disregarded my feelings, and manipulated me for years. Explain? I asked, my voice sharp. Explain what? How you and Noah planned this behind my back, how you took my money, and now you expect me to just forgive you because you're sorry. She didn't respond immediately. The silence was deafening, and I could feel the weight of the words hanging in the air between us. I didn't want her apology. It wasn't enough anymore. It wasn't enough to make up for the years of manipulation, the years of me being taken advantage of, the years I had spent building a life for them, only to be discarded when they no longer needed me. I've already made my decision, Emma, I said, my voice calm but resolute. There's nothing you can say that will change what's happened. You made your choice, and now you'll face the consequences. I'm not going to let you walk all over me anymore. She was quiet for a moment, and I could hear the frustration and fear in her voice when she spoke again. Dad, please don't do this. Please don't take everything away. We'll make it right, I promise. We can fix this. No, Emma, I said, my voice steady. You can't fix this. You've already made your choice, and I've made mine. You can't just take my money, my love, my trust, and expect me to be okay with it. You don't get to treat me like this, and then expect things to go back to normal. I could hear her breathing heavily, trying to keep her composure. You don't understand, she whispered. We were wrong. I know that now. Please don't shut me out. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what I had to do. I'm not shutting you out, Emma. I'm protecting myself. I've given you everything, and now it's time for me to take care of myself. I won't let you use me anymore. I'm done. I hung up the phone without another word. There was nothing more to say. The decision had been made. It was done. The days that followed were a blur of legal papers, unanswered phone calls, and an unsettling emptiness. I knew the consequences of my actions were only just beginning to unfold. I had made it clear to Emma, Noah, and the rest of the family that there would be no turning back. But as the days passed, I began to feel the weight of the decision I had made. There were moments when the silence in the house felt unbearable. I walked through the empty rooms, hearing the echo of my footsteps, feeling the absence of their laughter and presence. For years, my life had been centered around them. And now, I was faced with the stark reality that they were no longer a part of it. I kept myself busy, throwing myself into work, handling the legal ramifications of their betrayal. Michael, my lawyer, had been instrumental in organizing the paperwork for the loan recall, the credit card cancellations, and the vehicle repossessions. Every step was calculated, every document signed with precision. But even as I filled out forms and made phone calls, I couldn't shake the emptiness that gnawed at me. I had been the one to give them everything, to help them build their lives, and yet here I was, abandoned and alone. Each morning I would wake up and go through my routine, making coffee, checking emails, organizing my thoughts for the day ahead. But the silence was deafening. I missed the noise of family life, the small moments that had once filled the house with warmth. I missed the way Emma used to laugh, the way Noah would joke with me over dinner. But that was all gone now, replaced by the bitter taste of betrayal. The phone calls kept coming, and I continued to ignore them. Emma's voice on the other end of the line, desperate and pleading, trying to get me to reconsider. I knew what she wanted. She wanted me to forgive her, to let it all go. But I couldn't. Not this time. Not after everything that had happened. One evening, as I was sitting at my desk, reviewing the final documents to finalize the apartment loan recall, I received a message. It was from Noah. My fingers hovered over the screen as I debated whether or not to respond. I didn't want to engage with him. He had been a part of this too, and I felt no inclination to speak with him. But curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message. Noah. Larry, I know things have been tense between us. I understand why you're upset, and I get that you feel betrayed. But please, this has gone too far. We never meant to hurt you. Can we talk? I know we can fix this. I stared at the message for a moment, my thoughts a whirlwind. I had spent so much time and energy trying to help them, trying to make them happy, and yet this was how they repaid me? I didn't know what to say to him. The words felt stuck in my throat, as if speaking to him would somehow make the whole situation worse. I didn't want to fix it. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. I began typing, but I stopped halfway through, unsure of what to write. Finally, I put the phone down, feeling a strange sense of relief that I had resisted the temptation to respond. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. The consequences had to be real. They needed to understand that their actions came with a price. If I let them off the hook now, they would never learn. They would never change. But as much as I wanted to stick to my decision, the guilt crept in. I was human after all. I wasn't a robot who could just shut off feelings. I loved them, despite everything. They were my family. It hurt to see them suffering, especially Emma. But deep down, I knew it was for their own good. It was time for them to face the consequences of their actions. It was time for them to grow up. I picked up the phone again, this time dialing Michael's number. The phone rang a few times before he picked up. "Larry," Michael greeted me, his voice steady. "How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I said, my voice calm, but there was a sharpness to it that wasn't there before. "I'm just wondering if I'm doing the right thing." Michael paused, and I could tell he was carefully considering his words. "What's going on?" "I got a message from Noah," I admitted, my voice tightening. "They're trying to make amends. Emma's been calling, and now Noah's messaging me. They're saying they never meant to hurt me. And you think you should forgive them?" I let out a sigh, rubbing my forehead as I sank back into my chair. Part of me wants to. They're my family, Michael. I've spent my whole life providing for them, helping them, and now they're in trouble. It's hard not to feel guilty about it. "Larry," Michael said, his tone firm but compassionate, "you're not responsible for their actions. You've given them everything. This isn't about you failing them, it's about them failing you. You need to stay strong. They've made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. He was right. I had to stay strong. I had to see this through, no matter how difficult it was. I wasn't going to let their manipulation and guilt trips pull me back in. Not this time. "I'll be in touch soon," Michael said, snapping me out of my thoughts. "We'll make sure everything is handled legally. You've got this, Larry. Just don't let them push you around anymore." "Thanks, Michael," I replied, feeling the weight of his words sink in. "I appreciate it." I hung up the phone and sat there in the silence of my office, the weight of the situation finally settling over me. The truth was, I had to let them go. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. They had made their bed, and now they had to lie in it. There was no going back. Not now.